right, folks. Our guest at this time, joining us at on the Strike Zone here live. We want to thank him for calling in. He is the play-by-play guy for your Pawtucket Red Sox. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jeff Levering. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Doing fine, thanks. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for calling in.
Thank you very much for calling in, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. No problem. Sorry for the delay. I was getting all jacked up about watching the Red Sox.
Hi, what do you think about what you're seeing so far tonight?
Well, tripping 3 down top of the first inning is not telling me a lot, but I do think that they've got quite a bit of momentum going, even though they lost a tough one last night. I think they've got the advantage in the pitching matchup with Peavy and Hellickson, and the way that lineup, especially the top part with Victorino and Ellsbury going the way that they're going, it's going to be really tough to stop that offensive machine that is the Red Sox tonight.
Red Sox certainly have been cooking on all cylinders.
And I wanted to ask you, Jeff, last night Koji Uehara, he really wasn't as clutch as many people think. They're giving up the walk-off home run to Jose Lobaton in the bottom of the ninth inning last night. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, he was pretty clutch this year, and I know some people were even, it seemed, anointing him as the next great closer for the Red Sox, but definitely in a clutch situation, he didn't really come up so clutch there.
Well, he picked up game number 2, and he pitched well, as you said, all season long. I mean, there was not a reliever in baseball who was any better than Koji Uehara. And it was a situation where, and even if you look at the replays, Jose Lobaton went down and got a pitch that was below the strike zone and just happened to put a good swing on a good pitcher's pitch and hit it into the Ray tank in deep center field. But Koji's done a great job. That was the first home run that he has allowed since June the 30th. Last night he comes in a tie game. It's not even a Red Sox leading situation, so he didn't blow a save. He came in a tie ball game. Coach is he's going to be fantastic. He comes in if the Red Sox have a lead tonight. John Farrell's not going to have any reservations on bringing him in there tonight's ball game if the situation proceeds itself. But Koji, sometimes pitchers have to just give hitters a little bit of credit for hitting pitchers' pitches. I think last night is one of those circumstances where Koji, at the end of the night, I made a good pitch. He beat me, tipped my cap, and the Red Sox still have every bit of momentum in this series, too. Up 2-1. Yes, they're on the road, but they got to win one of the next 2 ball games, and they're sitting pretty with their rotation and their offense, too.
Now, Jeff, what are your thoughts on some of the management decisions that John Farrell has made? He made a couple controversial calls in yesterday's game, having Buck Hall pitch to Evan Longoria, which gave rise to the 3-run home run, which tied the game. Also, pinch running Xander Bogaerts, pinch running him for Will Middlebrook seemed like a questionable call. If you look at Xander Bogaerts' steal record, it's around 500. I think 17 steals, caught 16 times, where Middlebrook seems like a speedy enough guy, and of course pinch running for Ortiz as well. What were your thoughts on some of the managerial decisions Farrell made yesterday?
I thought that the pinch running move was a good move. Middlebrooks, having seen him in Kentucky this year, he doesn't move as well as Xander Bogaerts does. And Bogaerts, he might be a step below at third base defensively, where Middlebrooks might be just a step above. But it really didn't come into play just because Bogaerts never came to the plate again. Yeah, Middlebrooks' spot never came up. Game was over in the bottom of the ninth inning. Likewise, well, not likewise, because Ortiz's spot came up, but that's a situation where you have to pinch run for David Ortiz with Quentin Berry. He steals second base, ends up coming around to score anyway. So it's a situation where, he pushed the right buttons, but the execution just wasn't there on some particular parts as well. But I think his decisions to pinch run were smart, and they were well executed as well. They were timely. They needed to happen. It just seemed like all season long, John Farrell's been pushing the right buttons with this club, and he just didn't happen to push the right ones yesterday, where the situations just didn't work out for him. You're talking about Buck Holtz pitching to Evan Longoria in that situation.
Yes.
Buck he'd been pitching out of jams all night long, using that changeup very effectively, and even the pitch that Longoria hit out, he didn't hit it all that well. It was up the trademark a little bit. He's just so strong. He was able to power out of the ballpark. It wasn't a terrible pitch. It was riding over the inside corner, and it's one of those situations like with Koji in the ninth against Lobaton, where you just got to tip your hat to Longoria and says, "Hey, job well done. You beat me on that pitch." And even his reaction after he let the ball go, and he thought that the ball maybe, the left fielder was going to have a chance, not was going to have a chance to try and make that play, but just out of his reach and into the third or fourth row of the seats in left field. Still a good pitch, but Longoria beat him on that particular at-bat. But you got to pitch to him. There's 2 outs in the inning, and Buck had been pitching out of jams all night long. And I don't fault John Farrell for pitching to Longoria in that situation at all.
All right.
Hey, Ashley here. 5 out of the 8 playoff teams have Paw Sox alumni in them currently. What are your thoughts of the Red Sox development system having players all over the country?
It's been phenomenal to watch. I wrote a blog about it on 45 Miles to Fenway about all the different players that have played for either Boston. Oakland's got 5 guys who are in Paw Sox uniforms over the last few years. Even that even counts rehabbers too. But wherever you look in the postseason, you look at Paw Sox ties, and even in Atlanta, who got trounced yesterday, and unfortunately Juan Uribe came up with that big hit. Otherwise, we're looking at a Game 5 down in Atlanta tomorrow. But their third baseman, Chris Johnson, had such a great season as a son of a former Paw Sox manager, and Ron Johnson. So, I mean, the ties are all over the place, and it really speaks to the volume of the type of players that the Red Sox sign in free agency, go after down in the Dominican Republic or in Venezuela and foreign countries, and the guys that they draft. They produce quality players that, if they don't pan out with the Red Sox, they have had good success in the major leagues with other clubs. You've seen it with Josh Reddick, who had an outstanding season last year. Brandon Moss, who had a phenomenal season this year with Oakland. They're the ties to Paw Sox with that rich tradition, the Red Sox system, the way that they churn through prospects. It really is fun to watch. And, we saw it this year in Pawtucket. We had a great season, ended up going to the Cup Finals for a second consecutive year. And a lot of those guys that were on that club are up in Boston helping out the Red Sox right now in a race for a title.
Would you say one of the number one reasons for the Red Sox turning their season around is due to some of the young talent that has been called up?
I think it's a big part of it. I think the real reason for the big turnaround is just the culture of the clubhouse. I've had conversations this year with Mike Hazen, who's the assistant general manager, with Ben Cherington as well, and even some of the guys in the clubhouse, the players who've come and gone from Pawtucket up to Boston and back down again. Those guys are such a cohesive unit up there, and I know winning has a lot to do with that. But those guys show up to the ballpark every day, and if you just go up and want to talk baseball with any of the guys that are on that roster, they'll sit down and talk your ear off about the game. And that's something I don't think they did a lot of last year. And whether it was the mega deal with the Dodgers, getting rid of Gonzalez and Crawford and Beckett, or even just the firing of Bobby Valentine and bringing in John Farrell, who's so into this organization, and the guy who's been a part of this organization for many years as the skipper. I think that the culture of the club and the way that they've been going about their business this year has as much with anything to do with their turnaround with the players that Pawtucket has brought up there. While they have had a big impact on their season, I think it starts with the management, John Farrell, and that coaching staff on how they go about their business on a day-in and day-out basis to make that team successful.
And, Jeff, I wanted to kind of touch upon a couple of the other series that are going on here in the 2013 MLB playoffs. The St. Louis Cardinals winning last night 2-1 over the Pittsburgh Pirates to force the decisive Game 5 on Wednesday night, tomorrow night actually, in St. Louis. The Cardinals now improved to 7-1 in elimination games since 2011 with that 2-1 victory last night in Game 4. Do you feel like that momentum will carry over into Game 5 and improve their record to 8-1 in elimination games?
Having worked for the Cardinals organization before my stop here in with the Red Sox organization, that the Cardinals and their system is very, very strong. The guy that they ran out there yesterday, Michael Wacha, was a 2012 draft pick in the first round, and when he made his Texas League debut at Double-A for me last year, which was in the beginning of August as a reliever, after just being drafted 6 weeks prior, I saw him throw one inning, and I said, this guy's going to be in the big leagues next year, and he is going to battle for Cy Youngs for years to come. And what we saw from that right-hander last night, yesterday afternoon, was just an indication of how good he is. That's a great club. Adam Wainwright is as good as it gets in terms of clutch pitching performances. He's going to get the baseball tomorrow in game number 5. And he's going to go up against a guy who faced the Paw Sox this year in Garrett Cole. Cole shut down the Cardinals, which is a tough offense to shut down. In game number 2 at Busch Stadium, it was the first time that he had faced St. Louis all season long. So we'll see what Garrett Cole shows up. He's a rookie this year, too, just drafted in the first round, number 1 overall in 2011. He has the stuff. And he showed that in game number 2. Whether that shows in game number 5 in a must-win situation, we'll see. But Adam Wainwright is going to be poised. He's going to be ready to go in game number 5. That offense is tough. I'm seeing another 2-1, 3-2 game either way. It's going to be well pitched. It's going to be well defended. And it just depends on who's going to come up with the clutch hits or not in that particular ball game tomorrow afternoon.
So you played baseball at Chapman University in Orange, California, and 10 years ago won the 2003 Division III National Championship. What most people don't know is that you also played summer ball with Dustin Pedroia. What was that like?
It was great. I mean, it was before, it was before Dustin was so it was great to get to know him. We were teammates together for the first time. We were both 15. And playing on an AAU summer ball team that traveled around the country and actually finished second in the national championship that year in Millington, Tennessee. He was the shortstop. I played first and caught and DH'd. And if depended if they were facing a lefty or a righty, he was either hitting second and I was hitting third, or I would hit second and he would hit third if it was a right-hander on the mound. So I mean, we were always interchangeable in that lineup, and we were the two kind of captains of that team, which was great. And once we got toward the finals of that tournament, we decided, the two of us, to combine our efforts and get some real good cohesiveness with our team. So we dye our hair and see who else wanted to bleach their hair blonde as well, since we were the California kids. And so I dyed his hair blonde, he dyed mine, and we both got our driver's license a couple of weeks later, and both of our IDs had our bleach blonde hair in them, which is good. And to this day, he blames me a little bit because he doesn't have a lot of hair up on top of his head right now, and he says it's because I dyed his hair when we were 15. So whether that's true or not, I think so. But no, he's a great guy. He's the same guy that he was when we were 15 years old, 15 years ago. I saw him in spring training this year, and he looked up at me as I was standing in the dugout down at JetBlue Park down at Flyers, and he saw me in the dugout. I saw him on the field, and he immediately went over to me and said, "Hey man, how's it going? How's your family doing?" So I mean, he's the same guy that he was 15 years ago. We've stayed in touch ever since. We went off to college in different spots, and we've always stayed in touch over the course of the years. And it's been fun to watch him go from, Dustin Pedroia, the shortstop that I was messing around with 15 years ago to Dustin Pedroia, Rookie of the Year, Dustin Pedroia, American League MVP and World Series champion. So it's been fun to watch him and go about his business the way that he has.
And obviously, Jeff, he's made quite the jump up to the big leagues. I imagine that at some point you'd really like to make the jump up to the big leagues as well. Future people that came through the Pawtucket Red Sox system and called games there have really gone on to up to the major leagues. As recently as Aaron Goldstein there last year, now working with the Seattle Mariners. That must be a dream of yours to someday be up with the big leagues, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a goal of mine to get to the big leagues. When I was a kid, I always told my folks and my friends that I was going to play in the big leagues and make a big name for myself, but stopping the growing process at 5'10", being able to run too much and figuring I got a better voice than I do a set of legs to run with. I'll take the broadcasting route now, and being one step away is pretty crazy to imagine. And the job that I have right now and the precedent that has been set by those who have come before me is pretty daunting, and it's very flattering for me to be even in the conversation with some of the names, Don Orsillo and Gary Cohen and Dave Fleming, just to name a couple who have come before me. And Aaron, who I knew in my time in the Texas League, too, couldn't be happy for Aaron. He's such a great guy and does such a great job on the radio as well. Couldn't be happier for him and his success, and I know the folks in Seattle have a real treat in Aaron being the number 2 guy. I just hope that the line does not end with me. I know everybody puts a lot of pressure on this position to get up to the big leagues, and it's been 8 straight since year 2000 when Don Orsillo got the Red Sox job. So I'm hoping to make it 9 for 9. Whether that happens or not, or when it happens, is still to be determined. But I hope the string of luck of Paw Sox broadcasters making it into the big leagues certainly doesn't end with me.
All right.
So last year you called the Texas League final, and this year you called the International League final. The Springfield Cardinals won it, and the Paw Sox lost. What was it like to call those games?
It was very fun. The Cardinals had a great run last year. A lot of those guys that were on the club in 2012 up in St. Louis right now, Michael Wacha, Carlos Martinez, Trevor Rosenthal, Matt Carpenter, Matt Adams. Those are just to name a couple of the guys that were on that Springfield Cardinals team in 2012 that are helping out that St. Louis Cardinals team. That was a very talented team. It was a lot of fun to be a part of that. It was my 3rd year in the Cardinal system, so to see the hard work of those guys in that system pay off was extremely helpful and really a lot of fun to be a part of, and be a part of the celebration as well was great. I wish we could have finished one off this season against Durham, but hit a dry spot with our offense, didn't score a run for 26 straight innings. After the 3rd inning of game number 2, the bats went a little bit dry against that Durham pitching staff. So it would have been great to go back-to-back, personally for me, going AA, AAA championships. But it would have been great back-to-back championships for the Paw Sox. It would have been their first back-to-back championships in franchise history. So it would have been outstanding. We had a great club this year, led by manager Gary DeSarcini and all those outstanding players as well. Wish they could have celebrated and popped a couple of more bottles of champagne, but it just wasn't in the cards this year, unfortunately. And depending on who comes back next year, who knows, we might make another run into the playoffs.
Now, speaking of making runs into the playoffs, the Red Sox obviously have high expectations. 0-0 currently in the 2nd inning in the game against Tampa Bay, Game 4. Suppose the Red Sox are to advance. Who do you think possesses the biggest threat to the Red Sox left in the playoffs, Jeff?
Well, depends on who comes out of the other series in the American League. The Tigers are a very good team, very good offense. Another former Paw Sox player, Jose Iglesias, helping them out. A good defensive player in that pitching staff with Scherzer and Verlander, Fister and Sanchez at the start. Those guys are tough. Those guys are really tough. So Detroit is scary. Oakland is scary because they grind out at bats. They've got very good offense. Their pitching is very strong, especially in the bullpen. So that's a fun series in the championship series if the Red Sox get there. The Dodgers are a very strong team. That's a lineup that is extremely scary. It doesn't have any holes. And then you've got Kershaw and Greinke, the top two guys in the rotation, that can shut down any offense. So those two guys are a little bit scary, and they shortened down the back end of the bullpen with Brian Wilson, who's an eighth-inning guy, J.P. Howell, who's a seventh-inning guy, and Kenley Jansen, who's one of the best closers in the game. The Dodgers are a scary club, and so are the Cardinals, too. These teams are in the postseason because they're good clubs. They played baseball in all facets. They throw the ball well, they hit the ball well, and they field the ball well, and they wouldn't be in these positions unless they did all three things extremely well. So, in a 7-game series, anything can happen. Anything can happen in a 5-game series, too, and the Red Sox, you're talking about being 0-0 in the top of the second inning. They just knocked out the starter Helix, and they've already gone to the bullpen. They've got the bases loaded with nobody out for Salty. So, I mean, it's, who knows what's going to happen. We saw the A's had the bases loaded against Detroit with nobody out in the 8th inning in just a 1-run game, and they didn't get anything across against Detroit and Max Scherzer. So, it ended up being an 8-6 ball game where, if they keep it as just a 1-run contest, they could have a win and be in the championship series. So anything could happen, and all these series are going to be great. And I still feel really good about the Red Sox chances.
How fun would it be if we see a Red Sox LA World Series after that crazy trade last season?
It would be really fun, and you know what? It would be great because it's a trade that benefited both teams extremely well, and I think it would be great to see the Dodgers and the Red Sox battle it out in the World Series. Having come from the Cardinal system, I'm kind of biased for the Cardinals, and I don't like the Dodgers. I'm an anti-Dodger guy, so anytime they get beat is a good day for me. It's almost like everybody in Red Sox Nation, when you hate the Yankees and you love the Red Sox, but sometimes you love the team that beats the Yankees too. So I'm kind of in the I don't want the Dodgers to win just because I don't want the satisfaction of them having another victory. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Jeff, good stuff. Thank you very much for taking the time to call in the Strike Zone tonight. We hope to hear more from you, and you have a great evening, sir.
Sounds good. Thanks, Phil. Go Sox.
Thanks again, Jeff. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Jeff Levering, folks, he is the play-by-play announcer for your Pawtucket Red Sox, having some great insight onto the playoff outlook, on where some of the former Paw Sox players are at now and how they're contributing. I mean, really a lot of influence. I didn't realize 5 out of the 8 teams. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it with the Iglesias trade and all those players on L.A. and